Not an ASMR video, but I do love noodles. This time around on the rewrite, we're going to be doing a movie that I think sucks. Jaws. 3D. This shit is ass. Jesus, I mean, Jaws 3D. I can't shit on the movie enough. And I know that it, in some rights, is like a guilty pleasure, but wow. Don't watch it. The idea is cool. I like when they did it in the video game from like 2006. I was obsessed with that video game because it was so fucking badass, and then when you watch the movie that one level is based on, you're just like, the 3D is garbage, the story is boring, the characters, I just want to see them die. A lot of water in this video. But worst of all, one of the best parts about the original movie, and the second movie, which I also really like, it's ruined in this movie. Hell, I like Jaws the Revenge better. To me, that is actually a guilty pleasure. You have a shark roaring and stalking people. Just, Jaws the Revenge is superior to Jaws 3D, and Jaws 3D is such a wasted idea that I just had to rewrite it. Just enough to where I actually even physically wrote it too, in color. But don't worry, because I went as far as to go on Photoshop and also make this. We don't know exactly what this is right now, but we're gonna get into it in the story. All I can say is it's SeaWorld. It's the SeaWorld that Jaws attacks, except I changed the layout. There is like a little diorama of SeaWorld in the movie, and it's cool. It's cool, which is why I decided to make it bigger, and I decided to make it more of the centralized plot of the film and the environment of the film, rather than, whatever the hell this shit is. But we're gonna go right into it, and in Act 1, we kind of start off with a shark attack. People are in panic, whatever, and people are starting to question, oh, what is SeaWorld gonna do with their new event? And so yeah, the whole beach incident kind of just pushes people to worry, because this new attraction, if I can show you from the map that I worked tirelessly on Photoshop for this little video. If we're looking at the map that I made, you can see that the beach connects to an estuary, which connects to the gate, which kind of filters in all this salt water and natural water and etc. It's kind of their whole pull. They want to be closer to the ocean, and they want to have all these little environments in this attraction where you can see dolphins and orcas and sharks filtered through these little water vents so that there's always a consistent flow of water. And given the illusion that it's all open ocean and stuff because it's connected by the glass and the estuary and whatnot, we cut straight to opens in a week, and what we see is the park. We get to hear a conversation between the park manager and the CEO that their underwater tunnel attraction system, there's budget cuts. There are things that are not entirely 100% secure or safe. There's so many other additions that had to be rescheduled for a later time because they want to open this week. They kind of want to give the park a week to open, but during that conversation, they're kind of like, no, we have to open tomorrow because that's what people are expecting. And you're starting to see some of the foreshadowing elements within this first act where you're like, how could a park do that? That doesn't seem realistic. Wait a minute. Yeah, people are dumb, and park accidents happen all the fucking time because people care about the money more. So it kind of resembles every other human antagonist from the Jaws films. It was always about money. But they're like, the park will be safe. We'll be fine. And I forgot to mention this, but we're just forgetting the rest of the cast. Like, we're not even gonna mention them. There's no Brody's son, there's no nothing. We can set it in the 70s post Jaws, but we don't have to connect it to the original cast or anything. It could just be fresh. Or if it's a reboot or remake, it could be in a modern setting as well. So long as the idea of SeaWorld's underwater, groundbreaking tunnel attraction thing is a thing, then it doesn't matter where it's set. We can kind of just expect what happened in the video game and what happened a little bit in the Jaws 3D movie to happen in this movie for most of the duration. You get to meet some of the new characters, like the shark feeder and the shark expert and the dolphin feeder and etc, etc. Nobody too crazy important, but a main character cast that we can follow and be like, oh, we want to see them die, but hopefully not anytime soon. But that's kind of where Act 1 ends, is when we actually get to the gate at night, kind of like in the 3D movie. It needs to be fixed. because of the budget cuts. And so we have a diver that goes down and it's all tense and it's all anxious and yeah. The rogue shark that attacked someone on the beach not too long ago comes in and fucks the guy up and kind of sneaks into the park, and the gate's still open, so it kind of mirrors the original Jaws 3D in that sense, but the things are going to get different. Oh, before I get into Act 2, I'm going to start explaining the actual map itself. So this attraction has like land and an entrance base where you can go underground. It's kind of like the central hub, but just a nice little glass dome place connected by a couple tunnels. There are, of course, doors and pressure locks, but not enough because budget cuts. And the estuary where the gate is leads into one of the bigger attractions, which is called the Reef. You can actually see that the tunneling system with the smaller domes kind of makes a big W, and then there's like a little coral formation that makes out the word sea. Wow. Very creative. And this is where you're gonna have eels and turtles and colorful fish and shit just kind of roaming around. People could be like, ooh, ah, super cool. They can also see where the estuary kind of opens up into the ocean, and then the illusion of, wow, this is a great attraction, SeaWorld, thanks. And so it's the day of opening, and pretty much everyone's like excited to go into SeaWorld. They're going through all the entrances, and they're like, wow, fish and stuff. Going down into the tunnels, they're looking at everything super cool. You're getting some interaction between our main characters and such, but then there is a floating dead body. Once again mirroring the original Jaws 3D, but you know, more of a full grotesque body just kind of floating around. People are like, what the hell? And then the crew and staff is kind of like, wait, that's the guy who was supposed to fix our gate. What the hell is he doing in the water dead? That's disgusting. And then we kind of lead into the more unbelievable things that the Jaws movies have always had, because sharks don't do these things in real life, but we need tension in a shark movie with a giant shark that likes to eat people, because that's also not realistic, and we just like to have fun with these things. It seems that one of the water vents has been open, and that kind of fucked around with the computing systems, and you get a pressure locked door in one of the sections. So if we're going off this map, we can see that this is the orca section, dolphin section, the reef section that I just mentioned, shark reef, which is just the shark section. And a side note, it's like little sharks, you know, like the ones that you see in aquariums, not this. And the penguin section. And for some reason, people in the penguin section have now just been locked into the tunnel system there, but nobody's trying to freak out because it might just be nothing. Other than the floating dead body, which some people are unaware because they're not in that section, and some people are now trapped. But okay, opening park stuff happens, mistakes happen, and people will be fine. We're used to this. I mean, hell, I've seen enough Universal rides kind of stop in the middle of being a ride. So nobody's freaking out too bad, because it's still a pretty magical experience to be underwater and see all these nice little creatures swim around. But then as you can see down here, there's kind of like gift shops that are like hovering over the water. Well, if I can take a little reference from the game, you can see that there's like these houses that are being held up by pillars underwater. It's the same idea for the gift shop. See, there's a little bridge that kind of connects the park to those little gift shops, and so people want to leave. And so one woman's like, wait, what's happening down there? My kids are down there. And then she starts walking over the little wooden bridge, and wouldn't you know it, we get this. Well, now the giant shark kind of broke a bridge and ate a lady, and now people don't want to leave the gift shops, and also people don't know what to do. And now there is a giant shark in the penguin section, but we've watched enough of these Jaws movies to know that this is not going to be an ordinary shark, so At this very moment, you have the park manager and the rest of the crew going down into the tunnels to try to help people out. The park manager manages to override the penguin lock pressure door and get inside. He starts calling for people to get out, and he notices the giant shark kind of circling around. He only notices the shark when he hears a thud, and he's looking around, and he sees a crack in the tunnel. So he starts to override the door to make sure that it gets locked, but he sees that there are still people running through, so he's calling for them to run as quick as possible, just trying to save people. And he sees the massive shark swimming towards the crack. And at the very last second, he does manage to override the door, and the shark breaks the tunnel. The water floods the tunnel, he's swept into the water, and he's floating there for a second, thinking that he made it out, until the shark grabs him and rips him apart. All of the pressure doors kind of just lock themselves immediately in an attempt to not flood anything else, and they're going to be manually unlocked. This is only happening so that the rest of the tunnels don't actually flow, because budget cuts. They don't have pressure locks everywhere where it matters, and they only have some that cover the entire tunnel system. So you can kind of see in the diagram, this door right here can close. But if a crack opened over here in the back of the tunnel, there's no way to stop that crack from flooding everything else. So essentially, people are kind of locked underground in this water area, and people need to get out, and cops are being called, but there's really nothing they could do because there's a giant shark in the water kind of just chilling. People are stuck at the gift shop, people are stuck on the ground. what do you do? This kind of leads into the end of Act 2 where we see like police try to do stuff by, okay, it's a shark. We're gonna get like a little harpoon with some poison in it, and we're gonna go in and shoot it, and all should be well. So the diver with the poison harpoon swims down into the penguin zone looking for the shark, and he realizes that he can't actually find the shark. However, he swims into the tunnel and notices that the pressure door between the shark reef and the penguin zone is open somehow. It could be that the shark was nibbling on some cables. It could be that the shark just busted it open because, again, this is a fictional shark in a fictional movie. But to our knowledge, the shark came in through the estuary and the reef, broke through one of the water vents to get into the shark reef, and then broke through the other water vent just to get into the penguin zone. So as far as we're concerned, he's already been in 3 or could be in 3 of the 5 zones in the underwater attraction already. The orca and dolphin sections are safe, but there are ways to get through that, as you can kind of see from the red spots. And so while the diver's trying to communicate this back up, we see that the shark is swimming up behind him in the tunnel, and he gets taken out. Whether this ends Act 2 or kind of leads into the end of Act 2, what we can be certain for sure is that we're starting to get into the climax of everything and how we can get out of the situation, but also how we can fuck up the situation and lead into more deaths. So you have essentially an entire army of cops with a little helicopter and news reporters and whatever kind of going into the situation at SeaWorld. They're trying to rescue people, but they don't want to risk the shark jumping up and biting anybody again because they don't know where it is and it could strike at any moment. They're trying to also get underground and help people, but if all the pressure doors are essentially locked and can only be manually operated, then they need to actually communicate with the people down to know where they are, and only the crew members have walkie-talkies, and there's at least a dozen people underground that are lost. So it's just a big mess. Nobody knows how to really fix it, and everybody's trying their best. But this shark is stalking everybody. And so right now the shark expert, the shark feeder, the dolphin feeder, and a guest that they befriended are all trying to calm themselves and find a solution to get out of there. And of course the staff remember that there is an emergency exit hallway system below the actual underwater area. So think of there's land and then there's the water underneath. There's that whole park section that they're doing. Well, underneath the park is the little emergency exit ways, just in case of something bad happening, and it's highlighted in yellow on this map. This is also kind of how the park management gets all the like fish and stuff underground through these tunnels to bring it up into these feeding stations and feed the fish and do little shows and whatever. So they say, hey, we're gonna use that. So our protagonists are stuck under in the reef section, but there are actually 2 emergency exits there. They just have to walkie-talkie over to the land and tell them exactly what's happening and which doors to override. And while they're doing this, the shark is there, swimming around, and it knows that it can break the tunnels if it really needs to, because now it has learned a very dangerous trait. Also, pause. I know some of you might be like, oh, that can never happen, a shark's not strong enough, and yada yada yada. Outside of this just being a movie and fictional, of course, for our entertainment, I do want to show this clip that happened for Shark Week. And so if you're ever like, oh, sharks can't be strong enough, yeah, no, they're huge. Them bitches is huge. So they're rushing for the emergency exit, but they're starting to see some cracks in the glass that the shark is starting to form by ramming itself into the glass to feed. And they're like, go, 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 go. And so the emergency exits have their own doors, but they're not exactly pressure sealed, so water starts to leak in through there. And even though the tunnels are flooded, when they close the little hatched door behind them through the cracks in the door, it's starting to kind of flood everything. And if the emergency exit floods, the water rises and it'll essentially flood every tunnel system, but they have to try. So our 4 main protagonists start going through this flooding tunnel and they hear a loud bang. They are of course worried by the sound, so they're trying to even rush out of there quicker. But the dolphin feeder is kind of like, hey, I'm gonna actually cut through here because it's the dolphin station and there could be people in there because it's not flooded as far as we know. And they're like, okay, get those people out, keep this walkie-talkie. So shark expert, main guest, and shark feeder are now almost towards the exit, but they are hearing the water move behind them a little weird instead of just flooding the entire thing. And they're rushing through the emergency exit, and then the feeder and the expert get out, but as the main guest is starting to get closer, he gets munched on, kind of like Deep Blue Sea, which is also a really good shark movie. And the 2 try to help him, but it's kind of useless at this point. But they both get out, they're able to explain everything to the cops and whatnot, and shit starts to go down. We're in Act 3. The dolphin feeder is in the dolphin section and sees a couple kids stuck in there, and they're like, okay, walkie and talkie-in, open the door to the orca section, please. And they do, and it's also not the fastest door opening, of course, but they're starting to walk through and they notice that this place is already leaking somehow. And when they see the silhouette of a giant shark swimming next to them, they're kind of like, get the fuck back to the dolphin section right now. And so the cracks and flooding get worse and worse, but they are trying to close that pressure door, and then they just kind of run up into the dolphin feeding station. All the meanwhile, the shark meets the orca. Natural predators, of course, you know that the orca bullies great white sharks, and of course they would kill each other, but this is not a fully grown orca, and on top of that, this, again, is not your normal shark. So there's like a little killer whale shark battle that's kind of getting broadcasted by the media, and then the shark expert and the shark feeder are like, hey, cops, we need your help. Do you have a fucking helicopter or some shit? So the dolphin feeder is kind of going up into the platform to feed, to like, you know, get out of there. And so they get up there with the two kids, and then the other two main characters are like, shit, let's get in that helicopter, let's drag him out. All the meanwhile, the orca and the shark are having a pretty badass fight. The orca actually manages to rip off one of the fins from the shark. I kind of detailed it here like a little toddler, but it would be cool. However, the orca gets decimated and it's just a giant pool of blood. They can't see it or anything, so it might be dead. The feeder and the expert are in the cop helicopter, and they're pulled down the ladder, and they're hovering over the little feeding station. And the shark expert kind of starts going down the ladder to help the kid up, so he grabs one of them. And I also want to mention that these feeding platforms are fairly low. They're low enough to where like you're only about a foot above the water, because you're trying to like get close with these animals and feed them if you work at the place. And so meanwhile, everyone thinks that the shark kind of died during that little fight with the orca. The shark has a little jump scare moment and kind of jumps out of the water, and it does miss the kid and the shark expert, but it scares literally everyone, and the helicopter kind of swerves, and now they're kind of like over top. I also have extremely detailed drawings for those as well. And so the shark expert's like, what the fuck, this shark just does not die, what the fuck. But there happens to be a little poison harpoon in the actual helicopter itself, so if the shark is badly hurt enough, maybe this poison can end it. So the shark expert's kind of like, fuck it, I'm going in. He pulls the kid that he grabbed into the helicopter, he grabs the harpoon, and he jumps into the water. The dolphins are still in the tank, but they've kind of been scared this whole time, so when they see the guy, they're trying to help him, kind of like Jaws 3D. Again, I'm not taking a lot of elements from that film, but I am taking what would probably still consider it a remake or reboot of the third film. And he's swimming around with the dolphins, and the shark's kind of circling and doing some scary things, but the guy does manage to look down the harpoon, and with the shark's mouth super wide and open, the guy is able to straight into the shark's mouth, which kind of makes it flinch a little bit and twitch, but it's still kicking. It kind of just swims away. And so he's trying to swim to the feeding station, and you kind of see like a fin coming up behind him and coming up, and everyone's like, swim, swim, swim. Because the shark's bleeding and everything, it's kind of just like this fin cutting through like a little ray of like blood in the water, almost like a nice little smoke effect of like the fin coming through. And the guy's definitely not going to make it in, but the fin goes under, and he's looking around in the water for a little bit, and the helicopter's ladder is kind of above him, and he grabs onto it to kind of pull himself up, and they raise him up, and we have a little final jump scare of the shark kind of just coming up and trying to bite the guy. But by the time that it lands back on the water, it's poisoned, it's exhausted, it's been bit to pieces, and it kind of just dies there and floats. Happy ending, everybody's saved, everybody can be saved. Although I did forget to mention a scene that could be added, but although it does mean that the shark feeder would die. And that would essentially be before the whole saving portion, but before the orca fight, that they try to like chum the water and drive a little boat outside of the estuary to kind of get the shark out of there. And like it works, but the gate's broken, so it's not closing, so the shark feeder gets knocked into the water and then killed, and then we go into the orca fight. But I didn't really feel like adding it right now. You know, it could definitely work, especially to what I've already said, and if you want to just kill off the shark feeder, since he really doesn't have any other purpose. And that essentially was his purpose, was to get eaten and try to get the shark away in a smart way. But that's how I would rewrite the piece of shit movie that is Jaws 3D, because, I mean, it's a great concept. Killer shark, SeaWorld, etc. And I wouldn't even waste your time on Jaws 3D unless you're trying to do like a drinking game or something. At that point, I would kind of just focus on this, rewrite it or something. I mean, if Universal even gives a shit about doing Jaws again, I know it's mostly Steven Spielberg who's like, there will never be a Jaws remake or reboot. But then like, you know, he does like Indiana Jones again, or like Jurassic World, which, you know what, I still love remakes and reboots, like, don't get me wrong, but Jaws has a lot of potential to come back, even if it's like a video game, you know? And as a very big Jaws fan, I am just kind of upset that I haven't seen anything Jaws related for like movies or shows in a long time. But hey, Maybe I can do a video where I rewrite Jaws, the original, and turn it into like a soft reboot or remake or some shit. But I don't know. It's the modern age. People don't hate sharks anymore like they used to, and thank God, because like Jaws is what made me love sharks. So people are going to be watching a shark movie regardless, just because they want to see the shark eat people. Even better would be a Jaws video game, but I feel like Maneater came out recently, and that's also a pretty good substitute to Jaws. It's just not Jaws. Like, share, subscribe, comment, whatever you want to do. I don't know. Thanks for watching, and bye guys. Also, happy Shark Week. My brain's kind of scrambled right now, so I kind of forgot to mention a lot of things, but I also was trying out a different lighting setup. I don't know if you noticed. I'll put like a side-by-side. Boom, here's a side. Here's from this episode. I don't know, I'm trying out new things. Yeah. Also, I'm late on Shark Week, but if I do these scheduled videos every Friday, instead of just posting them all in one day, then I can't really contain that. Anyways, I'm turning off my lights right now.